welcome everyone. Today is our first session of the Coalesce Transformation Talks. Great that you are attending. We're going to introduce the format later on, but let's first introduce ourselves. So my name is Tim Kirschke. I'm a BI consultant at Scale3. I have more than 6 years of experience with data warehousing in general, and 4 of them with Data Vault 2.0. And also the data warehouse automation tools. And data warehouse automation tools are also a big part in my daily work at Scale3. Besides that, I also often do data vault modeling, and I also am involved with CI/CD processes and DevOps. And luckily, I'm not alone here today. Dennis is with me. Dennis, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you very much, Tim. Also, welcome to everyone from my side. My name is Dennis Pollard. I am working as a BI consultant at Scale3 now for around 2.5 years. But I'm also looking back on experience of SQL and databases for around 3 years, and data vault and automation tool experience for a bit more than 2 years. Also, I have experience in implementing data warehousing and BI solutions and customer projects. And the background that I have is a bachelor's degree in business information systems. I'm also a certified Data Vault 2.0 practitioner. And similar to what Tim already mentioned is that I also have a focus on data vault modeling, and as well as data warehousing automation tools like Coalesce and dbt. Now, introducing our format or our session that we are going to host here today for the very first time. Welcome everybody to the Coalesce Transformation Talks. And what we are planning to do, or what we are going to do here, is that each month on the third Thursday of the month, we are going to hold a session from 3 p.m. And the focus is that we are planning to discuss single topics each session. So each session has a different topic mostly. And we are going to cover the whole aspects of theoretical parts, but also practical parts. And it's also planned that we include some demo sessions so that it's added to some slides that you're also able to see the practical parts. And the idea is that we start at 3 p.m. We focus on one topic. We have a short session and to cover this one topic. Now we are coming to today's agenda. So as you may have already seen on the first slide, today's topic is custom nodes. So we have 3 points here that we want to discuss. First, we want to cover a short introduction to what are custom nodes again. Maybe some of you already know what exactly that is, maybe not. So we want to make sure that everyone has a good base of understanding. And then we go a little deeper to how are you able to create your own custom nodes. And we are going to finish that up in the end with a demo session, which Tim will take over. And he's going to show you how you can create your own sessions and why you may want to make use of that. So let's get into the topic, creating custom node types. So first of all, what is a node type? Before we start with the custom node types, what is a node type? In Coalesce, they are the main aspects of the tool because you're able to basically build your whole amount of database objects by using those node types. And you can see here on the right side of this slide that these node types are basically blocks that are shown with some color and a name. And these are then later turned into database objects. So you can build as many as you need and then use them to create your tables, create your views, and bring all of that together. And you're also able to do that just with your mouse. So it's low code. You can add nodes, you can edit them, as you also see here on the screenshots. If you already have one node type there, you can just do a right click on it, hover here over add node, and create more as you wish, as much as needed. And also what is included into that is that you can see the lineage. So you basically start from the left side, and as you build more node types, it will give you a good idea of which ones are dependent on which ones. And each of these node types is a specific type. So for example, in the beginning, you have 4 available node types. You have dimensions, facts, stages, and views. And all of them have some specific predefined UI elements. They have a create template, they have a run template. I will go into detail what exactly that is later, but they all have their own aspects that make them unique. And now coming to the next point, custom node types. So if you take the next step, you know you have some node types already available in the tool, but now you have the possibility to also customize it even more and to create your own node types. So whenever you have some database object patterns, you are able to create them into node types. So as mentioned before, each node type has a UI element or some UI elements, the create template and the run template, so the DDL and the DML. And not just only that, but you're also able to use parameters and macros to make sure that you repeat yourself as less as possible, and you can build reusable components. And yes, examples are stages, dimensions, facts, but also data vault elements like hub and links. And I mentioned it before, when you start building your node types, you can also see how they depend on each other. So for example, we have one node type over here, and then this is a source node type, we build a stage node type on that, and then a hub in the end, and you can see how they work together. Similar here in the lower part, again with an example. So now I explained that you're able to create your custom node types. The question is now, why would you want to do that? And can be a variety of things. But I think the most general thing would be that you have custom needs. So you could also compare it with, for example, if you want to buy a house or you want to settle and get yourself a house, you could go and buy a generic one that was already built for you, that has certain aspects covered, but you can also decide that you want to build your own house that covers exactly your needs, exactly like you want it. You want the perfect bathroom, the perfect kitchen, whatever. It's similar with the node types. You already have these couple of ones that are already available, but it could be possible that there's something that is not exactly covering the needs, how you want it, how you need it. So now you can take the extra step and create your own one. You can foster it exactly to your needs and adjust every part that you want to. This is one of the big aspects. The second aspect is that you can make use of the reusability. So for example, you have one thing that you keep repeating in your implementation, and you think to yourself, okay, I'm doing this over and over again because I want it to be exactly like that. But you can basically take like a shortcut each time you start doing this and just create your very custom node type that already covers this, which will help you to stop implementing the same things over and over or repeating them, and also gives you a bonus on your time or make sure that you don't need to spend that much time creating these certain aspects over and over again. Then what components are there? Like I mentioned before, you have the node definition, which is covering the UI. So you're able to adjust how exactly your node type looks like, what kind of things you are able to configure in there, and what kind of things you are able to choose in there, basically from certain UI elements. Then you have the create template, which is your DDL. So this creates your database object. And then in the third and the last step, you have the run template, the DML, which then makes sure that your database object is filled with data. And these are the core elements of all of the custom node types. That's also how you walk through or go through this process of creating your own types. Let's have a deeper look into that. Yeah, first aspect, the UI config. You can see an example on the right side. So for example, you could have an element where you can choose if you want to create this node as a table, as a view. You can adjust even more. So there are materialization selectors. multi-source toggles like the one on the right side as well. But you can also add a couple of more, like drop-down selectors, column drop-down selectors, and many, many more. So there are a lot of things to choose from. You're also able to adjust many of those to your wishes, to your needs, so that you are able to create your best fitting solution, which makes it also easier in case there are some cases you want to have a little bit more generic. You can use these UI elements to add different different parts here. For example, like in the business key, you can choose this part. So if you would need to hard code this, it would always just be one part, but this way you add this variety to it. Then the second step, the create template. This basically creates your database object. You can create tables, you can create views, which with the create or replace statement here. But you can also add transformations in there. You can add comments, and you can also make use of all of Snowflake's DDL functions here. There's a quick example here on the right side for a hub table, just to give you a brief idea of how it looks like. And now let's get to the last aspect, which is the run template. So after finishing all of these steps, these two, the run table is also needed to be filled out and to be added. And this is basically where you then add the data into your node type with an insert into. You can define incremental strategies here. You can also work through merge strategies. And these ones, important, are only executed for tables. And also here you have a big variety by using the Snowflake DML. So now we're coming to the end of the quick theoretical part. And I'm going to hand over to Tim, who is now going to take you through a demo session.
Thanks, Dennis. I hope you can see my screen now. You can, right? Perfect. Okay, then, yeah, Dennis covered all the theoretical background that we need. And now I'm going to jump, or I already jumped, into my Coalesce environment. So if you haven't seen Coalesce before, this is how I would use Coalesce. So Coalesce is a SaaS solution. I access it via, in this case, Google Chrome. I have it set up here to connect to our Snowflake instance. I have it opened here as a backup, but I hopefully don't need it. And I ingested the TPCH sample dataset. You might be familiar with it. It's a generic dataset available inside Snowflake. And I just added that here as a source. So we have a total of 8 nodes here on the left side. They represent tables coming or being already in Snowflake. If we have a look here, for example, customer is a nice example. We can fetch the data and have a short look to validate, okay, there's data in here. I don't need more. I just want to show you there's data here. And this is what we want to work with. So this in practice only has one batch. So there's no like load date or something like that. It's just one data delivery. And for having a good example work use case for today, I did create something on top of here, which represents another node. And this other node just takes everything from the source node and adds a column, which is a load date timestamp, and it gives it 10 different dates. So if we have a look at this data, we're going to see, compared to what we saw before, one additional column, which is called the load date timestamp, and it has some different values. And with this, I want to simulate a multi-batch delivery. So let's assume I have a persistent staging area. It holds various load date timestamps, has a full history in there. And this is my starting point for my data warehouse project. And now, if we go back to my overview, let's assume that I want to load my data warehouse daily and I only want to process the latest batch of this customer data. What would I do? I would select only the rows that have the latest load date, right? So that's what I'm going to do now. As Dennis said, all of those boxes here represent a node, and every node represents a database object. And since I want to create a new one, I'm going to create a new one. So I right-click my customer, multi-batch node. I'm going to click on add node. And it's fine for me if I implement it as a view. So I'm just going to click on view. And it already opens up. I don't really need to configure anything. All columns are in here already. I could have some options here. I mean, a view can only be created as a view, that's obvious. I could select that it should be distinct if it's multi-source, but for now, I'm just going to keep it as it is. I can create it. Since it's a view, it only needs to be created. We can see the query that has been executed against Snowflake. And as well, we can fetch the data again. But now we still haven't done the filter, right? We still have multiple load dates. And this is what I'm gonna now adjust. I can go to this join parameter. So we have on this thing here, the columns, and then I can also specify where the data should come from. And since this currently has a from statement, I can just add a where statement. And what I'm just simply gonna do here, I'm gonna select all the rows where my load date represents the max load date that's available in my source. Oh, yeah, this is not really working. Load date timestamp from the same source. And if I now recreate my view, it hopefully works. No, because I have a typo, of course. If I don't use autocomplete, it won't work. Let's recreate it again. And now I think it just hasn't updated. Typically, the demonstration session, now it worked. And if I have a look into the code here, we can see my where statement is actually in here. And if I fetch the data again, then I can see I only have one single load date timestamp. Okay, so this fulfills my requirement. I could work on from this node type on and create my data warehouse on top of it. But now I have another node where I basically want to do exactly the same. So nation here has also a load date timestamp and 10 different load date timestamps in there. So now we have one of the two reasons why I might create my own custom node type, right? Because what I would need to do is just replicate the code that I just wrote. So that always is a big hint that you might think about a custom node type. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm gonna go to my build settings and I go to my node types. And here I see all of them listed. And I can see the view node type, the one that I just created. And now I'm going to duplicate this because this is what I want to use as a starting point. I'm going to rename it to a current view. I call it version 1 because we're going to build oh no, let's not do that. Let's just call it current view. I can put in the name here. I could define my specific color. I'm just going to keep it like this. Put in some plural names. But now we can modify our new node type to do what I want to do. And we can now see the three components that Dennis showed in the theory. So we have the node definition. This has impact on the UI. We have the create template. This defines my view. And since it's only a view, the run template is empty because we don't have a DML statement. So if we have a look at our create template now, we can see a lot of stuff, a lot of ginger, but what we can see here is we open up, we call this functionality, which is called source.join. But what is this? So what do we know? How do we know which metadata is available? That's easily visible here. So I can select the view that I created before. In this case, it's my customer view. And now I can see all the metadata that's available in here. And I now know for this customer view, I've added something like this. So this hopefully is visible somewhere in my metadata. So let's search for where. I can just search for where. And then I see, this is exactly what I defined for my custom node. This is the text I put in there. And this is available in a variable or in a key called join. And this key called join, I can see it is defined under sources. And therefore, I can see that it's accessed here with source.join. And this will paste my information. I can actually click on render, and this renders my create template. And we can see this source.join equals this here. And if I now, because if I would put in my nation multi-batch, the one that I want to create, and if I now render this, I will see, of course, the where statement is not there yet. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put my where statement after this join functionality. So I'm going to do a where load date timestamp, same type again, equals select max load date timestamp, same type again, something wrong with the keyword, I guess, from this. And I don't even need the from, but this I know equals to the from statement. So I can put the from statement in here again. And if I now render this, it doesn't work. Let me check. Maybe I try again. Load date timestamp, load date timestamp. Ah, yeah, okay. This was a thinking error. Of course, I need to first create a new node of my new node type. So if I now click on add node, I see the one that I just created, current view. And if I would now create this one, what would I see? Hopefully what I would expect. Let's have a look into the DML code. DDL code. Yeah, I can see my where condition here. So this already worked. I have successfully created my first new custom node type. I could use this for all the other sources I have here. Let's do that right now. So let's go to orders. For orders, I'm going to add a current view as well. I click on create, and what will happen? Hopefully it works. No, it didn't. And why? It says invalid identifier, load date timestamp. Well, if we have a look into the data here, we can see in this specific case, the column is not called load date timestamp. Instead, it's called LDTS. So maybe we should think about making this here configurable. That's what we're going to do now. So configurable means my goal would be that there's a selector here where I can specify, hey, what is my batch identifier column? And as we learned, this is option. This is doable in Coalesce. So I go back to my current view node type configuration. And what we adjusted before was the create template. But now we want to influence the UI. So I go back to my node definition. I can see all of the parameters and the UI options listed here. And we see options. This is the group. And this is where I would expect my new button as well. So I can just add here with a nice YAML configuration some things. So the first thing I'm going to put in here is the type. So what type of UI button would I want to? It would be a column drop down selector because I want to select a column, right? How would I want to call it? Display name should be batch date column. Very important for working with this. How should the attribute be called in the background? I'm going to put batch date column as well, but just with underscores. Then I can define if this should be required. Yes, it should be, because if people use this current view, they should put in what the batch date column is. And I can also say if this should be enabled on any condition. For now, I'm just going to put it to always enabled. And now I can see my options have already adjusted, and I can see here my batch date column is here. The star means it's required. And I could select my load date timestamp. I mean, in this case, we still have nation selected. So let's maybe switch to my orders view that I created. And now I could select my LDTS column here. So let's go back to our orders multi-batch node, the one that we created, the one that has LDTS, and that's also the one that just failed. So if I now select here my LDTS column and I click on create again, well, it still fails because we just changed the UI, right? We didn't use that parameter yet. So it's still load date timestamp in here. So there's obviously, you might have already guessed it, there's obviously a second place that we need to adjust. So if I go back to my custom node type, I only defined this here, right? But this attribute batch date column is still not used. So let me go back to my create template. And we see right here, this load date timestamp and this load date timestamp should be replaced by LDTS. But how do we do that? I showed you this is the metadata that's available. And I'm going to quickly search for the attribute that I put in here, batch date column. Let's search for that. I can see here it is. We have a config as the top level key. Then we have batch date column. And then somewhere here we have the name. So I would expect I could just go in here and do a double curly bracket because this is Ginger. I do a config dot batch date column dot name in this place and also in this place. I can check if this would work. I click on render. I see at least the rendering was successful. And if I look into my create or replace view statement, I can actually see my where statement now has the LDTS column in there. So I would expect that it should work now. Let me go back to my orders multi-batch node. Let me once again click on create. We can see finally a green arrow and the LDTS is properly used here. And if I fetch my data now, I should see only one single load date. Looks good. Well, so with those few modifications, we created our very first own custom node type, which we can put maybe a description in here. I think we can't. We could put a description in here that says, use this view if you have multiple batches and only want to select one. And then the user can select which column is my batch date column, and the view will automatically adjust to select only the latest batch. Yes, and this could, of course, be extended to various things. You can have multiple new things here in the UI. You can have very complex logics here in the create one template. And basically, as Dennis said, you can tailor the node to fit exactly your needs. Yeah, this is going to be it for the demo session. And I'm just quickly going to jump back to these slides, which I prepared here, of course. Yeah, we covered the theory of custom node types. We covered the demo session of custom node types. So we are at the end of our very first session. It would be very nice if you join our next session as well. As Dennis said, it's going to be held every third Thursday of the month at 3 p.m. at GMT +1. It's going to be interesting topics that we prepared, but we are obviously waiting for your questions and topics. So if you have anything that interests you, feel free to scan the code. You will come to a Google form. You can submit your questions, and then we can prepare the answers or the demo sessions for those specific topics that you want to see and cover them in the next sessions. Okay, I think that's it from our side. Thanks for joining and hopefully see you at our next session. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.